Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit Sports Talk. Today, we're going to review Week 5, which was a really exciting week in football. But before we do, Maddie, tell everybody a little bit about what you got going on with Travel Story Society.
Yeah, so the Travel Story Society is kind of how me and Jay met. It's like how we got on our first podcast together is through this. And it's basically a website that me and my partner run about people's travel stories, where we publish people's travel stories. And the new season of our podcast is coming out this month. So head over to www.travelstorysociety.com to find out more about that. And just look out for the new season of the podcast. We've got some great guests, including the National Geographic's best-selling writer of 2019, Monish Rajesh, to talk to us about train travel around the world and how she took 80 trains around the world and that kind of stuff. And just come check it out. It's a lot of fun. And it's coming out this month in the coming weeks.
Well, that's very cool. Everybody get your ass over there and check it out. It's a good time. But on to this last week of football, and we'll start with last night's game, Bills, Chiefs. And I'm just going to say, Maddie, the Chiefs do not look like the Chiefs to me. There is something off over in KC.
Yeah, the Chiefs aren't that good. I think Patrick Mahomes is still really good, and Tyreek Hill is still really good, and Travis Kelce is still really good, but the Chiefs aren't good. They're the Cowboys last year, where they can only beat you if they smoke you out, but they don't seem to be smoking anybody out either. Like, they only scored 20 points last night. Now, that could just be because the Bills are really good. I mean, they put 52 points on the Eagles the week before, so that it's not like their offense has got terrible overnight. But the Bills look really good, like best team in the NFL good, and the Chiefs their poor defense has caught up with them.
I don't disagree with the Bills looking good, but I expected the Bills to look good, okay?
Yeah.
I did not expect the Chiefs to look this bad, and we talked about it last week, that they do this weird thing where they just feel like they can turn it on and just go, and it's like that on button is gone, and they have all this talent, and they don't look like they have all this talent. And it's really baffling to me, the not that they were even struggling, but the level of drop-off is what really caught my eye. It's like they're not coming back like I thought they were going to.
Yeah, maybe they just don't possess the ability to start quick. It might not be this whole, they just come out not trying and then they'll just turn a switch on, it'll be fine. I think they get behind in games because their defense isn't very good and they can't run the football. But they get really impatient as well on their offense. They want to hit the big play really quickly. They could just dink it up there was loads of opportunities to just dink it up the field last night, and they just didn't take it. They just want to hit those big shots, big sparky Patrick Mahomes plays, which are amazing, and I really want them to still do, but they're able to dink it up the field, then just take that, because you don't have a run game, so that could just be the extension of your run game.
Yeah, I think the run game is a huge problem. I was going to say that. And as I turn this back into make it about me for a second, their running game is killing me in fantasy. But it's just like, I think that's a huge problem is their run game. But it's just weird how, like, they've fallen off from what they were. I didn't expect a ton from their defense. I just thought you got to be the type of defense that slows people down a little bit, gets a couple stops a game, not a ton, and give that offense a chance to go. But that offense ain't doing what I thought it was going to do. So it might be a longer year for Kansas City than we thought.
Yeah, and I'm surprised by the fact that they don't have a run game, because when you look at their offensive line, it should be really good. And it's not necessarily a bad O-line, really. Like, there's not a lot of bad O-line play going on. They just don't have the scheme to run the ball, and they get a bit too impatient, and Clive Edwards-Helaire fumbles the ball too often if you give him the opportunity and things like that. And the Chiefs, it's a really weird one for the Chiefs, because I also wouldn't be surprised if from now they went out and just won every game because they decided to score 50 points a game. Like, they could still everybody's beating up on the Chiefs and it's getting down on the Chiefs. And they're still an incredibly talented team with an incredibly talented coach. The defense just needs to do a bit more bend, don't break, which is becoming bend and break for them over the past couple of weeks. They need to figure out a way to stop people in the end zone. And if you only kick field goals against the Chiefs, you're not going to win. So they need to figure out a way to stop people in the red zone and stop people from getting into the end zone. But the Bills, man, they look so good. Like they looked in control of that game from the start.
Yeah, and not to shit on the Chiefs, and I thought it'd be a closer game, but to sound like old Benny Green, the Bills are what I thought they were.
Yeah, and the Bills are a really, really good team. Like they are, and we spoke about it at the start of the season. We said, if the Bills can get a pass rush or any defensive line rush, then they're going to be good. And we said we trust in Sean McDermott to get that sorted out, and he has got it sorted out. Their draft pick, Greg Rousseau. Greg Rousseau. I personally was kind of shitting on him before the draft. Like his draft stock fell a lot for me after seeing his training tape, but it's the freaky nature of the man means he can just get around offensive linemen and he blocks the run better than a lot of people. And he's looking like a good acquisition for them.
Yeah, my last thought on the Bills, the only thing that made me nervous for the Bills in that game last night was the halftime, only because it got dragged out, and I was really afraid that Bills Mafia was going to lose their mind and injure themselves on tables. That's it. That's the only worry I had for the Bills in that whole game.
Yeah, they were in control, and they looked really good, an imposing team, and week one was just an extension of the offseason for them, and as far as I'm concerned, they're undefeated.
Well, I do know that moving on to a game that both teams absolutely tried to lose and nobody tried to win. In great fashion, the Vikings-Lions game, which the Vikings had complete control of that game through the whole game, missed a weird 49-yard field goal, which what is weird is you don't usually see a guy with as big a leg as Joseph has come up short. He wasn't to the right or left. It was just short, which was weird, which would have put the game out of hand. But then you have the worst fumble possible by Alexander Madsen, which I still don't understand why the Vikings took their foot off the gas when Justin Jefferson was killing everybody who covered him. And I know that Zimmer likes to run the ball, but I think Click Kubiak got in his own head. It was awful, awful play calling that even made that game close. And in great Lions fashion, they scored, go for two, and then let Cousins drive down the field and kick and set him up for a field goal with 37 seconds left. The only thing I got to say about the Lions is I'm out on Dan Campbell. I'm completely out on Dan Campbell because he cried because they lost, and I have zero faith that in tough emotional situations you will make the right decision because you're too emotional.
But I think that's his kind of what's this? Their third heartbreaking loss of the season. I mean,
it's his first year playing.
I know, but the Lions are an actually half decent team, and they're cursed. What are they doing?
Did you ever watch A League of Their Own with Tom Hanks?
No.
He says there's no crying in baseball. Well, there's no crying in football. Like, you cried because you lost the regular season game. It just drove me. I don't mind. It's not that he cried that bothers me. It's that I don't trust him now in emotional situations.
Yeah, I think it's his first year as a head coach in the NFL. I'm willing to come a little bit slack with how much heartache they've suffered already this season. Like, they should be in a much better record than they are. The Detroit Lions can actually play football. They're a horrible team to play against, as far as I can see, which is what we thought they were going to be. So far for me, it's mission accomplished for Dan Campbell. And hopefully the players will see how much of a shit he gives and start giving just a bit more of a shit to not give away field goals. But to be honest, mate, I was very happy that you won because I wouldn't have liked to speak to you today if the Vikings managed to find a way to lose that game.
Well, first I want to say, if you all didn't notice, I was being pretty facetious about Dan Campbell. I like the guy. The crying just bothered me a little. I texted you yesterday that everybody in Minnesota is getting fired at the end of the year, and then Cousins drove them down and maybe saved some jobs depending
No,
how they feel.
I still think they get fired. I don't.
Well,
think
I said depending how they finish. If they make the playoffs, they some crazy way, then they save their season, or if they go on a great run, or there's weird things that can happen to save your job. But if they'd have lost that game, I think it'd have been a snowball effect for sure, and everybody was gone. Now I still think there's 60-70% chance they're getting cleared out, but Cousins may have saved those coaches' job. And the ironic thing is a lot of those coaching staff did not want Kirk Cousins.
Outside of the fumble, Matheson had a really, really good game. What is your opinion on trading away Dalvin Cook?
Never.
For a lot of money, for a lot of picks, and a lot of cap space.
If you watch that game, there is a couple cuts, and there was one in the third quarter where Madison cuts left, but if he cuts back right, he's gone. Cook doesn't miss that cut. He doesn't have the burst that Cook has to get through those. And don't get me wrong, I think Alexander Madison could start on a dozen teams in the NFL. I do. But when you're comparing him to a Christian McCaffrey, a Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones.
Top 3 running back, definitely.
I can't do it, especially on the fact that within a year or two, Cousins is gone and you're going to have a young quarterback. I can't do it. I get the idea, but if I'm the Vikings, your whole season depends on this guy coming back healthy.
Yeah, I just think if you clear out some, I don't think that they should trade Dalvin Cook. When I see a running back who's capable of rushing for 100 yards, I mean, if your running back rushes for 100 yards, you should really win the game. As far as I can see, in a passing league, and Matheson is able to do that. And Dalvin Cook, if you take the cap hit, if you clear the cap space that Cook will demand, you get a couple of draft bit, like a first rounder for him, and then use that to get a quarterback after Kirk Cousins leaves. Then maybe that leaves you in a better situation. But I understand why you wouldn't do it, because it's a massive risk for what could be massive rewards. But how many times do we bust on quarterbacks in this league? And
then I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think the Vikings, just from everything I've read and watched, their plan is, I think they like Kellen Mond, the way it sounds.
Yeah.
And I think their plan is one more year with Cousins, then he goes, all that cap space opens up anyway. And I also think because they only got 1 year left with Alexander Madison, I think if they drafted, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, that running back in the third round this year.
Okay.
I think they're going to try to trade Alexander Madison after this year. And I know they won't get a first or anything, but you've spent a fourth on him. So even if you get a second or a third, for a guy, but that's just from what I read.
And he can run in a lot of teams. Like Seattle, he would beg for a guy like him to come into there.
Or even, I don't know if this would happen, but let's say Cook comes back 80-90%. And before the trade deadline, a team like Tampa Bay needs a running back because somebody gets hurt. And they're like, we got a shot at a Super Bowl. We'll give you a second. Well, then you send him off,
Yeah, definitely. And it just works in a I quite like Madison. He looks really, really good. I don't think you lose too much having him there, but the game might have been iced if he didn't miss a couple of cuts that Cook would have got.
And also, like Joseph's kick, which I don't blame him. It was just weird. He didn't get enough oomph on it. So I'm not a kicker. I'm sure he just hit the ball weird. But last thing on the Vikings is, Vikings fans, you should be excited about the fact that Anthony Barr made that defense look better, even though it took a quarter for him to get used to playing again. And if Michael Pierce wasn't hurt, they wouldn't have got some of the rushing yards they got, which you said it. The Lions aren't going to set the world on fire, but they're a rough team for people to play. So defensively, the Vikings have a little bit to hang their hat on. Offensively, wasn't our best game, and there is nothing to be happy about except for the fact you don't have another loss this week.
Yeah, and for Detroit, they have a few pieces to build around. They just need to find a way to not be cursed. They need to go and sacrifice some animals to some gods. Like, Christianity isn't working for Detroit by the sound of it. They're going to have to pick up another whole pagan religion, go all the way back to the Norse gods, do something to just go full on
Well,
karmic energy. Just do something to not be.
how about give Megatron his 1.6 million back and get rid of the curse? How about that?
Well, I guess he's a god in Detroit, so that works too. So get that. Give Megatron his money. That might get rid of the curse, and we'll go from
Before
there.
we move on quick, again, guys, most of that was just me fucking with Dan Campbell. Don't take me as seriously as it sounded.
And me talking about Christianity not working for Detroit was a joke.
Right.
That's British humor.
Well, how about your Cowboys, Matty? How about them boys?
They beat a shit team. Well done. They absolutely destroyed the New York Giants, which is good. I'm very glad about it. I would have been even more glad about it if Danny Jones didn't. If Danny Jones played the whole game and Saquon Barkley didn't get. That's just bad luck. How do you get your foot there? Like that could happen a million times. That play
they need to stop
a million
showing
times
those.
and that wouldn't happen again.
They need to stop showing those cringing ass replays over and over and over.
Yeah, show it once and then out of respect, you need to kind of not show it again. But like it's come out. Dak's spoken a bit about brain fog and stuff that like those turnovers. To be honest, I'm not going to blame him for him too much because he absolutely lit it up after. But those turnovers, you can understand this is the exact game he got injured in the year before. And you can understand why that would be an emotional time for him and just not be quite right. I think the only weakness on the offense is Taylor Biadasz. And I really want Biadasz to do well because I was a big supporter of him coming out in the draft. I like him a lot. And I just think he could do with settling down and maybe for a couple of games bring McGovern back in because he plays center. So maybe give McGovern a shot at center, give Biadasz a little bit more time on the sidelines and see what happens because we've got an easy run now. So that if we don't make the playoffs from where we are now, it's an absolute disaster. If we don't, like, honestly, if you look at our schedule, we should be top 1 or 2 seeded in the NFC. We've got
coming up. You hit a pretty rough patch coming up on teams.
Not really. Not when you look at how. So we thought that was a rough patch at the start of the season, but only because the Washington football team were meant to be good, and the Washington football team don't look good. Like it's a lot of divisional games which can be close, but we should win them. We should beat everybody in our division now, and I'd be surprised if we were the 1 or 2 seed. Like we'll find a way to not be the 1 or 2 seed, but the teams that we've got to play have had appalling seasons so far. Like if you look in our schedule, the only teams that have been playing well, the Cardinals, obviously on the undefeated team left, the Chargers and the Bucks, and we've already played 2 of them. So we should do well from here. So maybe see if McGovern can give it a go. But apart from that, I'm very impressed.
Yeah, and this isn't to shit on the Cowboys. I'm not your typical Cowboy shitter because like they're getting eaten up. If you guys play like you have been against the lesser teams in games, you'll be fine. But the way you guys played the Chargers, which are a good team, you got to play better than that when you're playing better teams. But it just depends which team shows up. And that's not me shitting on the Cowboys. That's just me stating the fucking obvious.
Yeah, because but I think a lot of that is Zeke is getting back into shape now. Like Zeke is an absolute animal. Like the offensive line is missing a right tackle. That's our backup right tackle who's only in his second year in the NFL, undrafted, and he's playing incredibly well. And it's a young offensive line, this offensive line, apart from Zach Martin and Tyron Smith, obviously. But Zeke is back because he doesn't have to do as many snaps because Tony Pollard is taking loads of snaps and they both rushed for 100 yards the other day. And they're an incredible tandem. They play really well together. Gallup's coming back soon as well. When you add Gallup into the mix, as much as I love Cedric Wilson as well, playing absolutely fantastic ball, but when you add Gallup back into the mix, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott.
Who do you play next week?
Good decisions. The Pats.
Okay.
But we should win that. You know what I mean?
Right. No, we'll get to that in the preview, but I couldn't remember. And
yeah,
so
it's the Pats. It's the Pats next week, and it's just to put 44 points on a team, like everybody's saying, oh, it's an injured team, oh, it's an injured team. Yeah, but the defense wasn't injured, and we scored 44 points on them.
You play who they put in front of you, so people can shit on who you've beaten and who you've not, but you don't make your schedule, so you just play the team in front of you. So that argument to me at most times is a moot point, except for when it came to another team we'll talk about later, the Panthers. But I think who they put in front of you isn't that big of a deal. Like, it's just you win the games in front of you, right? Like, but I see a lot of Cowboys hate online. And
yeah, it's a weird hate, because I wouldn't be surprised if this Super Bowl was Diggs at cornerback and Diggs at wide receiver. Like, from the way it looks like that, I'm a pessimistic person. Like, I'm British. We're inherently pessimistic. So you see Cowboys fans like Skip Bayless going, yeah, Super Bowl coming. This is the best team since 1995, definitely. I'm not in that category, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they make it. And of course, I really want them to make it. And I'm trying to downplay it a little bit so I don't curse it.
Well, I don't think that the fans actually hate the Cowboys so much. I think the fans hate Cowboys fans. And that's why nobody ever buys into the Cowboys, because it's like, bro, every year, them boys, this is our year. This is our year. So I think it's almost like we're you almost got to move to Mississippi, the show me state. Like, nobody's buying it until you show me. Like,
and in this, I think this season is the most well-rounded Cowboys team I've seen since I've been around, because they actually have a secondary. This is the first time that they've got a decent secondary that I remember watching. And Anthony Brown, as much as he is the weak link in the defense, is improving and took a great pick six. And Trayvon Diggs got another pick, and that pick was a wide receiver play.
Well, and I'll say this in a general statement so I don't jinx your Cowboys. When it comes down to teams, there's always one to five players on a team that could crush you if injury happens. So let's just hope everybody in the NFL stays healthy.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Just a quick note on Daniel Jones. I know concussion can be awful, but that's also great play from Jibble Cox. I would like to put that out there. That's shown a reason. Jalen Smith probably wouldn't have made that play. Jibble Cox makes that play, but Daniel Jones initiates the contact with his helmet. That's not on Jibble Cox.
Oh, no, not at all.
Out there.
But Danny Dimes walk off, that was not good. You know what I mean?
I've had that feeling in rugby before, where you just eat grass after coming off a hit.
It's stuff I said to you. I saw it 3 times yesterday. I saw it with Danny Dimes. I saw it once at the line with Trey Lance, which good for you for trying to get that touchdown. And then I saw it with Joe Burrow. This is why I cringe every time the quarterback, who is the face of your franchise, takes off. And I get they're going to run at times. And like, Burrows was not a designed run or whatever. He took off. But this is why I hate designed runs for your quarterback.
Yeah, I don't mind design runs for running quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. They should.
Besides Lamar, I don't want you having a designed run.
Yeah,
not even Kyler. I don't want you getting new.
Just slide down. Just live to fight another day. Like, just slide. There's Daniel Jones just tried to run over a linebacker. That's stupid.
Anybody going for the end zone though, like Trey Lance, I don't blame you.
There's no need.
I don't blame you though, is what I'm saying. I get
that. Definitely. But
on the 35-yard line, why the fuck are you trying to pick up an extra 2 yards?
Yeah. And then Saquon Barkley as well. But best wishes. You can't catch a break, man. Apparently, it's just a sprain and not a break, so that's good news. Yeah, it was intense, but it'll go down. And then Kenny Golladay as well. They really got the injury bug hard in New York.
And what about Tony?
That was so stupid. He's incredible.
Right?
He's incredible.
Me that.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So I slated them for picking him when he came out in the draft, because I was like, of all the stuff that the New York Giants need, a wide receiver is not one of them. But he was immense. He was their only shining light yesterday. And then he just punches somebody square in the head. That's idiotic. And the commentators are being like, oh, they pushed him, or they pushed him. No, they didn't. It wasn't a big... What happened was they pushed somebody else who fell into the back of him, and then he kicked off and just punched the guy square in the face. It's stupid. It's idiotic
Even if
when you're
they
down
would've-
by that much.
Even if they would have pushed him, you're a professional. You can't be acting like Joey Jerkoff. You got to handle yourself in a better manner. And he'll be lucky if he doesn't get a huge fine in this, and he'll be very lucky if he doesn't catch a game suspension for his dumbass move.
I don't understand punching somebody in American football at all. They're wearing a fucking helmet.
Right. Even
Like
in
rugby,
hockey,
rugby, fair enough. Yeah, in hockey, at least they take the gloves and the masks off and stuff. Like
right.
In rugby, nobody punches each other. It doesn't happen because they
There
just beat
should not
seven
be
shades of shit out of
punching
each other on the pitch. But at least if you're punching somebody, don't break your own hand doing it. It's so pointless.
I mean, besides punching at a football, besides combat sports, there should not be any punches thrown in sports. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's a dirty thing to do it's a dirty thing to do when there's no helmet, and when there is a helmet, it's just stupid and makes you look like a fool. So grow up, Kadarius Toney.
All right. Well, on to a game that I even commented in the middle of the game. I can't believe Crosby missed 2 kicks and then he missed 4 field goals and an extra point. The Packers Bengals, but there was a record set in this game. Congratulations, both teams. The first time in NFL history, 5 field goals were missed in a row.
That was just insane. That entire game was just full of stupid shit, like over and over again. Like the Bengals gave themselves every opportunity to win that game by playing really good football, and they lost. And Joe Burrow throws it away, which gives the Packers the game. The amount of times you text me twice saying Joe Burrow gave the Packers the game and Crosby missed the kick.
Yeah. But I will say I learned 2 things for that game. One, the Packers better get their head out of their ass real quick.
Yeah.
And 2, the Bengals I knew I felt Joe Burrow was going to be good. We were there. I liked Jamar Chase, even though I was worried about protecting Joe Burrow. I learned that the Bengals can play, and they got something to look forward to coming in the future.
Yeah, in the draft, we were like, I think we're still right and wrong about what we said in the draft, where, yes, they should have taken an offensive lineman at that spot in the draft, but taking Jamar Chase wasn't necessarily the worst call either, because they're not able to rush as many people at Joe Burrow because they're having to worry about Jamar Chase a lot of the time. Or in what a lot of cases have been of Jamar Chase's not worrying about him enough. So he's getting loads of points on fantasy team and scoring loads of points. My thing with the Packers is they only throw to one guy. They only throw at Devontae Adams as far as I can see. And as amazing as Devontae Adams is, and as amazing as Aaron Rodgers is there's going to be corners that can take away Devontae Adams, and then what are you going to do?
No, I agree. I think that they become a little bit two-dimensional with Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams. I do also think, I feel like, and I'm not blaming any one person, but when the game starts, there's not this sense of urgency. It's almost like the Chiefs. You're killing me with there being no urgency because you think you're just going to walk out there and at some point turn it on and figure it out. And Joe Burrow was out on the field. I don't give a shit what anybody says. And I'm really getting confused on how this works in the NFL now. So if you're top 10 in your position, like a Joe Burrow or a Devontae Adams, you don't have to go into concussion protocol. But if you're Teddy Bridgewater or Danny Dimes, you do.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL's never been good with this kind of stuff, and it won't be until minds change and somebody gets really, really fucking hurt. That's what it's going to have to take. That's what it might have to take for the NFL to sort it out. And Joe Burrow is a star for the NFL to continue. It doesn't really matter if he plays one game against the Green Bay Packers. Chances are the Bengals might make the playoffs this year, but what are they going to do once they get there?
I wanted Joe Burrow to play because I wanted the Packers to lose, as I'm trying to catch them as a Vikings fan, right?
Yeah, he was clearly fine to play on.
When he came back in, I felt bad for him.
He was clearly fine to play on. He was clearly okay to play on, but he needed to go.
If he'd have took another head hit on top of maybe already having a concussion and what we know, and Like, so I was worried about his safety for his future.
He's got a throat contusion.
Which they can say he didn't get on that play, but I call bullshit on that too.
Yeah. So his throat's like just ruined. And like he's still playing an amazing football game, and Joe Burrow is an absolute stud that the Cincinnati Bengals have found themselves. And he was the right guy to take number one in that draft. And like he's a really, really good quarterback, but they need to improve their offensive line so he doesn't take as many hits. And they need to spend some money on training facilities if they want to go up to the next level. And they need to protect their most valuable asset for seasons to come and all of those kind of things. It's a joke that they let him play on without putting him into concussion protocol because he was clearly fine to play on.
And what really impresses me about Joe Burrow is with the injury last year, he's kind of like a redshirt rookie.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And he's a really impressive player and a leader.
And then the last thing I got to say has to do with Jamar Chase. Can we stop with this Jamar Chase can't catch shit? I watched him I read an interview he gave, and he was talking about how when he came out of college, the ball has the stripe, so it's easier to track in the air. So in training camp, he had to get used to tracking the ball differently. That's all it was. Can we stop with this? He can't throw. Or I mean, he can't catch. That's ridiculous.
It's like he literally had one drop. Like he had one drop last night, really. And it was a bad drop, but he's also a rookie in the NFL. Let's cut him a little bit of slack. Like there are plenty of guys who drop the ball who've been playing in this league for a long time.
So on to another game that was kind of shocking for a while, the Texans-Pats. I just want to say, shout out to Davis Mills. Not that I'm saying he's ready to start or he should be an NFL quarterback, but he did show why I liked him coming out of Stanford.
Yeah, and I mean, the Texans are a little bit better than we thought they were going to be.
They got some talent.
They've got more building blocks than we thought they had at the start of the season. Now, that doesn't mean, in my opinion, they still look like the worst team in the NFL, but like the Jaguars have more talent. The Jaguars should be playing better than the Texans. It's just the Texans have got a few lucky breaks and that kind of stuff. And Tyrod Taylor played against Trevor Lawrence in his first game, and Tyrod Taylor's a seasoned vet. And if that game happens in week 16, then I'm sure the Jaguars probably beat the Texans, and we'll find out when they play each other again. Yeah, the Texans have got more building blocks. The New England Patriots have got less building blocks than we thought they were going to have. And they're a weird mix, aren't they? Really?
I thought Jonnu Smith was going to have a bigger season than he's having with them. I thought that Josh McDaniels would protect Mac Jones a little bit better than he's been doing as a young rookie quarterback. So, yeah, I'm a little bit surprised with the Pats. That's what I got out of that game. But I was very excited to see Davis Mills have a decent game for a young kid who shouldn't even be starting yet.
Yeah, and Mac Jones made a huge throw to win the game. Like that guy. Let's give him the credit for that. Like he obviously, I'd really like Mac Jones. He's not the most talented of the quarterbacks that have come out recently, obviously, but he's also just got a good game head, and he makes the play when he needs to make the play. And that throw to win the game to Hunter Henry, that's a fantastic throw, and he seems to have a lot of composure in the pocket. And he's one of those guys that the more his mind develops into, he's going to read defenses and kind of Tom Brady style, like he's going to know exactly where the receivers are going to be open before they're even open. And yeah, it's like I like Matt Jones. I just don't like the New England Patriots and the way that their team's structured. And the Texans have a few more pieces than we thought, but not really a lot more pieces. There was another that was a real shock though, like how close that game was.
I like Mac Jones. I think he's perfect for what they want him to do in New England. And I think he's a guy that is a smart kid, makes the right reads, that kind of thing. I just feel like they're not protecting this kid like they should. They're putting more on his back than you should a rookie quarterback. And it looks like he's handling it, but I just don't know if that's the best way to bring a kid along.
They need a run game. Like they really, really could do with a run game. Is what they could really do with. They could do with a Matheson. If they had a Matheson, like an explosive running back. And it's not something that they normally have in New England. They normally just running behind the linebackers, but an explosive running back would actually do them a lot of favors right now. And they need a run game to protect Matt Jones, which they don't seem to have. The defense is fine, but it's nothing incredibly special. I mean, I'm saying all of this now, and now they'll shut down the Cowboys and turn over Dak Prescott 3 times. But,
Well, the Cowboys are a good lead into the next team, because I want to know, because this is something I didn't expect, but it doesn't shock me when we talk about the EAGLES, 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 fly Eagles. No, fly Eagles, fly. I know you love it. No, and for me, it was like Sam Darnold turned back into Sam Darnold, like the clock struck midnight.
Yeah. He's been proving me right all season, and then he proves you right in this game.
And it's just one game.
It's just one game. It's one game. And the Eagles seem to have found a franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts. He's kind of like, for me, he's kind of like the same level of talent as Baker Mayfield, where you don't get rid of him if you have him unless you find somebody a lot better on the market.
Okay. I was trying to find a better comparison so people do not crush me, because I am not saying Jalen Hurts is Michael Vick. What I am saying is you need to bring him along like you did Michael Vick when he was young. You need to let him use – this is a guy you need to let use his athleticism, because if you don't, you're just going to lose. But you got to be careful on not getting him nuked. And you got not unlike Michael Vick, because you knew what he is. You need to give this kid some time to see if he's exactly what you think he is, or is he hit or miss when it comes game to game.
Yeah, and Jalen Hurts seems to be one of those guys where if you put him in a close game, like if they get him into a close game, then he'll get them over the line. Like, he can't guarantee to blow somebody out. He can't guarantee to drag them back if they're 40 points behind. But if he's in a close game where they need this field goal or they need this go-ahead touchdown, he's shown enough to me to say that he can do that for a team, and he is that kind of guy. I'd say he's like a top-tier franchise quarterback. Like, when I say franchise quarterback, I mean that's all he is. Like, you get like Mahomes, who's superstar, Josh Allen, who's superstar. Well, then you have that tier where it's franchise quarterbacks, so like Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, those kind of guys who they're really good for your franchise, and they're fantastic quarterbacks, they're fantastic leaders, but they just don't have, if one of the special guys comes to you and says, I want to play, then you get rid of them straight away. But I like Jalen Hurts a lot, and it's a shame he plays for the Eagles, but and the Panthers let me down, man. Like, I've been loving the Panthers, but they let me down. But they're allowed one game off, I guess.
Well, with Jalen Hurts, I think he's a gritty guy who's just going to win you games. It's not always going to be pretty, and I do agree he's in that tier with quarterbacks that you keep leaving Dak Prescott out of, but he's in there. And
Dak Prescott is different. Dak Prescott's slightly above that.
Stop it. That's just the Cowboy fan in you. But no. I think if you bring him along right, he could be special, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, and people like that are slightly above that.
Did you just put Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford in the same category?
I tried to slide it in really quickly to see what we could go for. Hey, I've got them both in my fantasy squads. And I'm not sitting on Dak.
I'm just saying, you got to show me. And
I've got them both in my fantasy squads, and there's one guy who's getting a lot more fantasy points than the other, and that's number 4. But anyway, Jalen Hurts played really well. The Eagles are not as bad as we thought they were going to be. Like, I really tanked them in my preseason predictions. They've got a few more building blocks to go on. Devontae Smith looks like a really, really good draft pick for them. Really good player.
Well, I agree with that. That dude can fly. He can catch.
He's adjusted to the NFL really well.
On to a couple honorable mention games, Maddie. How about the Cardinals-San Francisco game?
I mean, not much to mention about the actual game, but the Cardinals are the last undefeated team in the league. I feel pretty good about that.
I think they're good. I think they're 5-0 good, and I think the 49ers showed other teams some of their weaknesses.
Yeah, but I also think the 49ers have kind of shown that they are still a good roster. They are a good team. They've held
absolutely
an unholdable team to a loss Not a lot,
No,
but
but
like 17
they,
points.
yeah, that's it. They showed how to hold the Cardinals to less
Oh, I
points.
see what you mean. Yeah,
Like they
definitely.
gave a blueprint on like maybe we can beat this team if we do this type
Yeah,
of thing.
and
That's what I meant.
and
Yeah.
they would have beat that team if they weren't playing. Like Trey Lance isn't ready to play
Right.
quarterback in the NFL yet, and he will be. And it's all about not getting him killed and not putting too much on his plate, and he'll be fine. But
Yeah, and that first
guy hasn't
interception
played
was
for
just fucking awful. Like awful.
Yeah.
But that's a rookie move, right? But then he did some things where you're like, oh, okay, this kid can play. So there's going to be some rough spots, and he's going to lose you a couple games. I think if Jimmy G plays that game, I'm not saying the 49ers necessarily win, but it's closer than even that.
Yeah. And I think you've got to remember that Trey Lance, unlike the other rookie quarterbacks, didn't play at all last season because of the
one
team,
game.
Like played, what is it, North Dakota State? They just played one game last season.
Yeah, just to showcase him for the NFL. And so it was nice of the school, but what do you get out of one game?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you've got to remember that for them.
All right, on to another team who decided not to win yesterday, the Cleveland Browns.
An absolute ding-donger. What a game. Oh, Justin Herbert is real, man.
Yes,
Justin
absolutely. That's not the shit on Herbert, but it's like the Browns had every chance to win that game and just didn't. Like the Browns were being the Browns yesterday. Like,
yeah, the Browns were the Browns. But I mean, they scored 42. Like, what was it? 47-42. If you score 42 points, you should win a game. When you score 42 points,
league,
yeah,
I have both running backs in each league. If you add them together, almost 50 points.
When you score 42 points and you have running backs like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, how do you lose that game?
With that defense.
Yeah. The way that they lose the game is Justin Herbert's on the other side of the field, just absolutely throwing bombs. Austin Eckler is an absolute animal. And Mike Williams is the breakout wide receiver of this year, as far as I can see it so far.
And there was some of the worst kicking I've ever seen in an NFL week yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened yesterday. Like the only guy who made a kick that should have missed it was the Vikings have the worst luck with last minute kicks, and we win. Everybody else shanks kicks. I don't know what the hell was going on.
There's just an entire gale blowing across the states, like from Pacific to Atlantic, all the way across, just a huge gust of wind, and nobody picked up on it because everybody. So is this
the Chargers division?
Yeah,
I think
as far as I can see, it is. As far as I can see, it is because the Raiders are no good. The Broncos only beat shit teams, and who's the other team? The Kansas City Chiefs. See, I forgot about them because they're not playing as well as they should be. And the Chargers are playing some really good football. Their defense is really good, even though they let 42 points up. So maybe not that good. But like Justin Herbert is just out of this world talented.
No, I think it's definitely their division. The Chiefs, we don't know what's going on. And we all know what's going on with Gruden and the Raiders and emails. And Maddie and I aren't just dodging shit, but we're not the Skip Baylesses of the world to like just provoke argument and debate.
It's like we all know we don't know anything about it. So like we weren't there.
All we know is John Gruden admits to sending an email with a scumbag comment in it. That's all we know.
And the guys who were there on the is it the NBC show that does the Sunday night game? Is it NBC? Yeah. The guys who knew him well and were broadcasting him with him at the time of those emails being sent, they seem to say there's nothing out of his character and all of that. And they seem to be willing to forgive, and other people seem to be willing to forgive. And it's not really our place to say what happened or what's going on.
No. And everybody can deal with what they want. I'm sure it makes it rough on some of the players right now, but the Raiders are being the Raiders because they start out hot and then they fall off, and it is what it is.
Another quarterback who got needlessly knocked out on a sneak.
I don't remember who said it, but one of the people who used to coach with Gruden said, one of the problems is John gets all of these hot ideas. He throws them into the first 4 weeks and then doesn't adjust for the rest of the year.
Yeah, could be. And Derek Carr getting knocked out for a quarterback sneak is just criminal as well. Stupid play. And then the last thing I got to say, and this is to the whole NFL, holy shit, is the officiating awful. Yep.
It's awful. It's
Just
off.
make your referees professional. Make your referees professional. Let them go. They go to training every week, all through the year. You improve everything by making them professional, and you've got the money to do it. It's not like they don't have the money to pay referees, is it?
No, not at all. Well, all right, Maddie. Anything else before we let everybody go?
No, Ravens Colts tonight. Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Ravens will probably win that game as far as I can see it. But that's the reason that if the Ravens Colts goes off and it's 50 points to 52, that's the reason that we haven't covered it, because it hasn't been played yet. I just wanted everybody to know.
I picked the Ravens, but all I care about is that Michael Pittman and Justin Tucker go off.
Oh, yeah. I scored 224 points on fantasy.
Yeah, look at you. Hey, too
Just
bad you can't bank
know.
some of them.
What?
Too bad you can't bank some of them for further weeks.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Like
just letting you all know that I beat the guy that I was playing by 100 points, and that poor guy scored 117 points. Like, you know? Yeah. Anyway, ciao.
Look, some British pride over there. Some British pride. Well, shout out to you Brits for pulling off a wonderful game.
Oh yeah. Forgot about that.
The best teams, but it wasn't a bad game. I got up at 8 a.m. to watch this thing. So
yeah, Kyle Pitts went off. I'm kind of surprised at how close it ended up. The Falcons just try to lose games. They do their best to lose them. London putting on as good a show as ever. And I always forget how old London is compared to the States until I see it through an American lens. So when you guys are filming the games and all the shots that you take of like London Bridge and stuff like that, I'm like, oh yeah, London's old to Americans, isn't it? I totally forget.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you guys do your Jags game next week, right?
Jags game next week.
So that's something we'll be talking about in the next video. So stay tuned for that, guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
right.
And another good show. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.
All right, guys. You guys have a great game or a great night tonight watching Monday Night Football. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.